Afro Tales podcast is a part of the Connected Podcast Network. Ahoy, my friends. Welcome aboard the Afro Tales podcast. I'm your storyteller, Amon Mazingo. Join me as we explore the tales that grew from the people of Indigenous and African descent in the Americas and the Caribbean. After, come and see me, chef, who will impart upon you a recipe for the story you have just heard. So with no further ado, let us set sail on this new age of exploration. Molly Cottontail. Aunt Nancy, said little Janie, who was sitting in the big kitchen of the plantation house. Do you know any more of them stories about Miss Molly Cottontail? I think she's almost as smart as Mr. Hare, and I'd like to hear about her almost as much. Almost as smart, said Nancy, throwing up her hands in surprise. Let me tell you that when a woman starts to be trickish, she can beat a man every time, because her mind works a heap faster. She see all round and over and underneath and on both sides of things. To show what she meant, Aunt Nancy darted her head every which way, like a hen on the lookout for chicks and worms and weasels and chicken hawks at the same time. Meanwhile, a man's just trying to stare plumb through it. And she stared at Janie with such a wide-eyed, moon-calf look. The little girl began to giggle. Janie asked, why is she called Miss Molly Cottontail and not Mrs. Hare when she's married to Mr. Hare? To this, Auntie replied, I know she's called Miss Molly Cottontail because she never fancied herself just wholly and solely the wife of Mr. Hare. She ain't no sort of a female to settle down and just be plain Mrs. Hare all her days and stay home and listen to the children cry and wash their faces and comb their hair and cook their victuals year in and year out. Miss Molly just got too much get up in her for that. She make old man Hare stay at home and mind the children now and then, and he don't dare say no, neither. Oh, please tell me a story about Molly, Jenny begged. All I can say is you got to be the persistentest child I've ever run into, said Aunt Nancy. All the while kneading bread dough for the family supper, the woman began to tell, and it went like this. One day, Miss Molly and Mr. Fox went to visit Mr. Fox's brother, who lived across the swamp and down in the hollow. He was called Hungry Billy because he was all the time eating up folks' chickens. Molly was all dressed up in her fancy hat and shawl, and her good manners going along making herself mighty agreeable with chit-chat and little jokes. When the two reached Hungry Billy's house, Molly put her hat and shawl and handbag on the bed. Then she offered to cook supper, exclaiming, I's can't bear to be idle, even if I's off on a visit. So she fixed pine bag tea and ash cakes. While she was working, Billy brought her a pot of butter to help her with the cooking. Molly, who loved butter more than anything else, said, That's a mighty impressive lot of butter you got there. How do you keep it from spoiling on this warm day? I set that down in the stream where it cooled, Billy told her. Then he put the butter pot back, while Molly watched through the window. After they had eaten their ash cakes and tea, Billy went off to run an errand, and Mr. Fox dozed off by the fire. But Molly took herself to the stream and lifted the stone crock of butter out of the water. At first, she was only going to take a bite, but that butter tasted sweeter with every mouthful. Soon, her greediness got the better of it. She ate up all the butter before she was sensible of what she was doing. Straight away, she put the empty jar back in the water and hightailed it back to the house. A short time later, when Mr. Fox woke up, he found Miss Molly sitting on a chair, looking as innocent as a lamb, going on with her knitting and humming a sweet little tune, just as if she'd never had butter on her mind or in her mouth. Soon after this, Billy returned. His guests told him goodbye and they went back to their homes. Now, next morning, Billy discovered his butter crock was as empty as a sucked egg. He went first to Mr. Fox and then to Molly Hare and demanded, "Which of you went and ate up all my butter? The crock as clean as if it'd been scoured." Both said, "'Twasn't me." And Molly added, "Did what I want with your butter anyway? I got plenty of butter at home. Plus, I got a mighty delicate stomach. I can't eat no butter less than I done churned it myself, 'cause I can't be sure other folks been right clean and careful in their butter making." This made Billy even madder, and he sputtered out, Well, maybe my butter wasn't so clean. I don't know about that. But I does know about this. It clean gone. Once more, one of you two is the thief who gone it. Then Billy, who was the biggest fox round, raised himself up to his full size and showed Molly Cottontail and Mr. Fox his teeth. "I's gonna keep you both right here," he said, "till one of you fess up." But Molly said to Billy, "You let Mr. Fox and me lay down yonder in the sun all day. The heat of the sun gonna draw the butter right out the skin, and you know who done ate the butter." "I don't know about that," said Hungry Billy doubtfully. "It's the truth. Anyone can tell you that. It's just coincidental that I'm the one to remind you of this natural fact." "How can you remind me what I didn't know for now?" Billy wondered. "Well, now you know," said Molly Cottontail with a nod of her head. "Next time when someone remind you of this thing, you can remember, 'cause I just told you so." "I don't know if I follows all that," said Billy, scratching his head. "It real simple," said Molly, talking slow. "Mr. Fox and me, we sleep in the sun. You go along about your business. When you get back, all you got to do is rub your fingers over our stomachs. That sun will draw out the butter and slick the fur of someone I can name." Here she looked meaningfully at Mr. Fox. "Only I ain't going to go cussing someone without proof. Then you know in a jiff who done ate your butter." "All right, I suppose," said Billy, settling down to watch Miss Molly and Mr. Fox and the sun. "No, no, 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 no," cried Miss Molly. "You got to go about your business, 'cause it take a long time for the sun to draw out that butter." "I ain't got no business," Billy protested. "The only business you ain't got is accusing innocent people like me of thievery. What business you is got is what you mind yourself when you get out of here so you can do it." Now Billy might have asked her to explain that more, but somehow Miss Molly's clarifying only seemed to muddy the waters. With a sigh, Billy went off to find what business he was going to meet up with. Then Miss Molly pretended to fall asleep, while Mr. Fox, his mind innocent of this particular crime, really did fall asleep. As soon as Hungry Billy was out of sight and Mr. Fox was snoring away, Molly went to her larder, took the last bit of her own butter, and smeared it over the sleeping fox's stomach, so softly that he didn't feel it. Then she licked her paws clean and laid down in her place again, pretending to fall asleep herself. When Hungry Billy returned and found the butter on the speechless fox's fur, he began to accuse his cousin of being a thief. At that moment, Miss Molly Cottontail began to stretch and rub her eyes and pretend like she just woke up. Just listen to all the arguing for a few minutes, and then she commenced to say, "Laws of mercy, I wouldn't believe this if I ain't seen it with my own eyes. I'm certainly scandalized that a friend of mine took to stealing, and most especially on the polite visit. I declare to goodness my feelings is so hurted that I can rightly express myself. What's more, I can't stay here associating with a common thief. I got my innocent young family to think about." And off she scooted, while the foxes kept accusing each other of all manner of crimes. So it turned out, Aunt Nancy said to little Janie, a coolness sprung up in that fox's family that lasted a lot of years. And it was all on account of that crock of butter. Then the woman shook her head saying, "I tell you, child, that it don't take much to start a family quarrel. But it takes a heap of time and trouble to patch one up. Just the same as it do the holes where your brother Ned snags his britches. And those britches never do seem the same after the patching, neither." The end. Wow. So this this story to me was fantastic. And when I found this book at a local book sale, I had to grab it. It's called Cut from the Same Cloth: American Women of Myth, Legend, and Tall Tale by Robert D. Souci and Brian Pinkey. Molly Cottontail. Now, you ever wonder about certain characters in folklore, like, Br'er Rabbit and Anansi and, Annie Christmas, and some of these bigger than life, these characters that have long adventures. If you listen to other stories, from time to time Anansi is married, from time to time Br'er Rabbit is married, and you get now a story about one of their wives. I know they call him Mr. Hare, but Mr. Hare and Br'er Rabbit pretty much the same thing, right? Or at least that's how I took it. You may have taken it some way different. I took it as Molly Cottontail is Br'er Rabbit's wife, because she's just like him, just a female version, obviously, and it makes sense, right? But she is conniving. You know what I mean? I love that they created this character for the young girls on the plantations. Because you had Brother Rabbit. But that's for the boys to identify with, mostly, right? But now you have Molly Cottontail, who the girls get to identify with, And I love that aspect. I love that part of the story. But let's talk about that, right? Molly is a butter fiend. Like, I never knew. And this obviously came from something that people can just eat raw butter. It just felt like my cholesterol went through the roof and my arteries started closing up. But the way she was able to manipulate the situation and use her feminine wiles and her way of being a lady and that innocent nature to trick Hungry Billy and Mr. Fox and think that she had nothing to do with anything. And she was able to use Mr. Fox's previous acts against him with Billy, right? Because as she puts into Billy's mind, I'm not going to, gossip against anybody without any proof, while she gives, Billy Mr. Fox the side eye. And it got me thinking, like, people like that, right? Not even just being on the feminine side. We're not even going to just go there with it. People who, even probably growing up, you had that brother, that sister, that cousin, whatever, that could get away with anything. Anything. It was always somebody else. Or you may have been that brother, sister, or cousin that was the one getting away with anything. And you just hope, like, if you weren't the one that got away with it, like, they gonna get theirs one day. I'm always getting it in trouble for them. That's what Molly did. She acted as that, that little brother, that little sister, that cousin that can get away with anything. And I thought that was interesting. Like, being able to, I had those cousins, I had a lot of them that could get away with anything. If I told their moms what they did, they'd be like, "Not my baby." Yes, your baby. And we got those kind of people at work, right? You got people at your job that are like that. It seems like they do no wrong in the eye of the boss. And there's really nothing you can do about it, right? Just try to, cover yourself as best you can. Because if people are not going to see them as, a problem, there's nothing you can do about it. That's just the way it is. We need to do better as a people, but that's just the way it is sometimes, So, anyway, I can't wait to read you more stories from this book, this other women tales, and I'm sorry I didn't get it Women Month. Sorry about that, but that's sometimes how the stories work. They just fall where they fall. But I did kind of get like all the animals. I don't know. Almost all in 1 month. I try my best. Anyway, go see Chef. He has a wonderful story for you. Go see Chef. He has a wonderful meal for you based on this story, obviously. And until we meet again, as always, have a blessed day. And of course, thank you for coming on this journey. Welcome, my friends, to the Galley. I am your chef, and today we have a wonderful recipe inspired by the story you have just heard. Today, we will be creating Black folks shrimp and grits. Now, what will you need for this recipe? For the grits, 2¼ cup chicken broth. You can substitute water if desired. 1 tablespoon butter, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 cup stone ground grits, 1 cup of milk. Any milk will work. Half a cup of shredded white cheddar cheese and 1/4 cup of shredded Parmesan Reggiano cheese. Now, for the shrimp and sauce gravy, you will need 1 pound of raw shrimp, peeled and deveined, please. 1 teaspoon Old Bay seasoning, salt and pepper to taste, 4 slices of bacon diced into small pieces about 1/4 inch thick, half cup chopped white onions, 3 garlic cloves minced, half cup of chicken broth, half teaspoon of Creole seasoning. Start with 1/4 teaspoon and taste repeatedly and adjust if needed. And 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. Now, how do we put this together? Easy. For the grits, in a large pot, combine the broth, butter, and salt. Bring to a rolling boil. Gradually stir in the grits. Lower the heat to low, 1 or 2 on your dial, and continue to stir the grits frequently for 15 to 20 minutes or until the liquid is absorbed. Stirring is essential. Okay? If you do not constantly stir the grits, they will be lumpy. Once the liquid has been absorbed, remove the pot from the heat and add the milk and shredded cheese. Stir until thick and creamy. Allow the grits to thicken for at least 10 minutes. Now, for the shrimp and sauce gravy, heat a skillet on medium-high heat and fry the bacon on both sides until crisp. Remove the bacon and set aside. Reserve the bacon grease in the skillet to make the gravy. Use your judgment and drain any excess grease if you feel the need to. Add the shrimp to the pan with the bacon grease on medium heat. Season the shrimp with the Old Bay seasoning. Cook both sides of the shrimp for about 2 to 3 minutes each side. Remove the shrimp and set that aside. Now, add the chopped onions and garlic to the skillet on medium heat. Cook for 2 to 3 minutes or until translucent and fragrant. Add the broth to the skillet. Deglaze the pan using a wooden spoon or spatula to scoop up any brown bits in the pan. Add the Creole seasoning and lemon juice. Stir. Crumble the bacon and sprinkle it into the skillet. You can see the notes for how to thicken the gravy if you like it thick. Serve on a plate or in a bowl. Add the grits. Top with shrimp. Drizzle the gravy and bacon throughout. And that is it, my friends. Now, go. Make this recipe yours. And until I have another wonderful recipe for you, remember Miss Molly and her antics. And until we meet again, my friends, as always, enjoy.
Thank you, my friends, for coming on this voyage. Thanks to Art by Chalet for the logo, episode, and shirt designs.
You can get t-shirts and other items on tpublic.com. You can contact me on all socials at AfroTalesCast. That's AfroTales Cast. And email me at AfroTalesCast@gmail.com. You may also become a benefactor by simply sharing with any and everyone, giving a thumbs up, a 5-star rating and review in your podcast app of choice, or simply donating on Patreon or Ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com. So until we meet again, may your winds be fair and your seas follow.